We got some major NBA news that directly impacts your Golden State Warriors. Looks like the NBA is trying to finally combat tanking. Shams Charania reporting that Commissioner Adam Silver informed the league's 30 general managers on Thursday that the NBA plans to make an anti-tanking rule change for next season. Stakeholders have been intensified dialogue about combating tanking. And look, I'll tell you guys what, there are some wild ideas when it comes to combating tanking here in the seasons to come. We're going to break them down on today's show, but this is big considering your Golden State Warriors. Now, they're not necessarily a big-time tanking franchise. They've been a perennial playoff team for the last decade plus, but anything that discourages tanking would end up benefiting the Golden State Warriors, so let's break it down. What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Tyler Smith. Let's talk about it, man. The NBA is trying to combat tanking, and there were at least 7 proposals or ideas that have been brought up to try to stop the NBA teams out there that are losing on purpose, to be quite frank with you guys. Before we break down these ideas and the loopholes that might come with them, this is it. We're almost at our next milestone, just 12 subscribers away from 103,000 here at Warriors Today. Thank you so much to everybody who's hit that sub button and followed along with our Warriors coverage. It's not going to stop now, though. Constant Warriors coverage all year long, whether in season or out of season. You're going to find Warriors content on your YouTube feed by hitting that subscribe button here at Warriors Today. All right, so for the first idea for the NBA combating tanking, first-round picks can be protected only top 4 or top 14 plus, a.k.a. lottery protected. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not sure how much this changes things. Like, yeah, the Indiana Pacers put the special protections on their pick that they sent away to the Clippers for Zubats. But teams are just going to, if it's just top 4 or top 14, they're just going to tank harder and harder and harder to get the highest odds possible to guarantee themselves a top 4 spot. Because if you are a top 4 or the worst team in the NBA, the worst you can get in the draft is the 5th overall selection. So teams are just going to tank as hard as possible to get the worst record in the league, and then they'll end up, not having to worry about those protections on their picks. Idea number 2: lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline or at a later date. In terms of all of the ideas that have been brought up for tanking, this one is not that bad. Lottery odds freezing at the trade deadline or a later date could work. However, there will be loopholes found eventually. Teams will just end up tanking harder. Teams will just end up tanking earlier. You're going to see teams like the Brooklyn Nets and the New Orleans Pelicans, the Washington Wizards, and all those types of teams that we knew were going to suck at the beginning of the season just fully commit to the tank from day one. It would get even messier than it already is. Idea number 3: no team can pick top 4 in consecutive years and or after bottom 3 finishes consecutively. This creates messes as well. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I understand where they're coming from with a lot of these ideas, but this one, it opens up too much variability. Guys, it would take away the whole lottery aspect of things. For example, say that a team has 2 bottom 3 finishes and they weren't tanking. They were just that bad. We're going to penalize them for that? We're going to further penalize a horrific basketball team for not being able to stack wins. I think the Nets, multiple times in the past decade, have just had that bad of a basketball team. Like, they haven't tried to tank because they haven't needed to try to tank. They've just been that bad. You're going to take the potential of them getting top 3 picks away? That makes no sense at all. And then after you can't pick top 4 in consecutive years, well, what if a team is really, really bad one year? Like, say, the Charlotte Hornets, right? Like, they picked 4th last year. What if they did that, and you could argue whether or not they were tanking last year. Let's just say they were. They picked 4th overall, and then they have a season like they're having right now, where they're like near the play-in and trying to win basketball games and trying to get better and trying to build something down there in Charlotte. But they end up missing the playoffs, and then the lottery balls fall their way. We're just not going to allow that anymore. Like, I understand if you want to take that away, fine, but that just defeats the whole purpose of a lottery. It should just be somebody's discretion, the draft order at that point, or just make it inverse standings order. That takes away all points of it actually being a lottery. Idea number 4. We got teams can't pick top 4 the year after making the conference finals. This isn't something that's going to come up every single season. It's not something that happens regularly. Quite frankly, it's very rare. But what if, in the circumstance, we have a team that's aging, and maybe they've won championships before, or maybe they've just been really, going after these playoff runs and not getting over the hump, and then these guys get old enough and they make a run of the conference finals. They can't get any further. Maybe they make a run of the finals, but then the following season or the off season that comes, they blow it all up because it's time to reset. Well, you're not going to let them try to get a top pick in the following season when they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league after selling off all their assets. Like that would make no sense. Again, not something that happens super often, but it absolutely could, no doubt about it. Idea number 5. Lottery odds allocated based on 2-year records. It's making my head hurt, guys. Why? Who writes this stuff? Nickelodeon writers? Like this is really, really bad. Teams will just tank longer. You think the Nets, or the Pelicans, or the Jazz? You think that those guys think they're competing in the next 2 years? Probably not. So they're just going to commit to a 2-year tank. They're not going to try to improve the roster in the offseason, and they're going to go out there and play the following year at the same, if not a worse level. So let's not limit tanking. Let's not try to combat tanking. Let's encourage it. Let's encourage more tanking. Let's encourage it for a longer period of time. You see where I'm coming from, guys? It's ridiculous. How would you fix tanking? How would you do it? Let me know down in the comments section. Give me a rule. What one rule fix all do you have out there to combat tanking in the NBA? Comment down below. Idea number 6. Lottery extended to include all play-in teams. So what are we going to do? Contradict ourselves here? You just said teams can't pick top 4 after making a conference finals. Teams can't pick top 4 in consecutive years or after consecutive bottom 3 finishes. And now we're extending it to include all play-in teams. So what you're telling me is Miami, the Heat, after they made the finals against the Nuggets, could pick in the top 3? They'd be in the lottery after making the finals? Come on, guys. I know we can think harder than this. I know it's the early stages of these negotiations and these the brainstorming sessions you guys have been having, but a lot of them are like Ivy League educated guys. Like, we got to come up with better than this. We'll go over the final rule and more in just a moment. First, I got to tell you guys about our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. So don't miss the chance to get started at America's #1 app for sports picks at Prize Picks, where all you guys got to do is pick a lineup of 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less on their projected stats. Whether it's basketball, hockey, baseball is coming up very soon. You can mix and match all these different sports and stat types in the same lineup. You can even put 2 stats from the same player in the same lineup with their brand new Stacks feature. The features don't stop there, though. They'll always make it easier for you guys on Prize Picks, where they'll slash stat projections by 99%, call that a max discount. Also, early payouts. So if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you have the chance to cash out those winnings before the games even finish. They got injury reboots as well, so if a player gets hurt in the first half and doesn't return, it will not affect your lineup. Take advantage of all the fun that they have to offer over at Prize Picks and download the app today. Use that code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS. Like you see in the bottom right of your screen to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Idea number 7. Flatten odds for all lottery teams. At the end of the day, this is going to just blow up in the NBA's face. If this were to be enacted, it would blow up in the NBA's face one way or another. I would not go all lottery teams. You're going to see more often the Dallas Mavericks and the Atlanta Hawks of the last couple of years move all the way up into the top 3. You're going to see that every single season. You're going to see the 9th team. Like, what this is going to do is the bad teams will still stay bad. If you give the Nets, the Pelicans, the Wizards, and the Jazz, and the Kings the same odds for a top 3 pick as, I don't know, Say the Warriors miss the playoffs this year. There's a chance. The Grizzlies, like, teams that have been in it for a while. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So those teams will never truly get better. And then what? If you flatten the lottery odds for every single team, then can anybody move at that point? Like, I don't know, man. It just feels like there's not a one-size-fits-all kind of scenario here. But I have a couple that we can incorporate to end up, combating tanking just a little bit. Now, flattening lottery odds. I know I just said I wouldn't do it for all lottery teams. I would do it for the top 8 teams. The top 8 teams in the lottery can all have flat odds, and then everybody after that, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, those teams would have much lower odds because they were close to the playoffs, and they shouldn't really have a chance to be picking in the top 3. Top 8 flattened lottery odds will help you. Now, teams will end up tanking into those lottery odds, but they probably weren't all that good to begin with anyway. No protections on traded picks. Once you trade a first-round pick, it's gone. It's to that other team, and don't worry about it. Because then at that point, the team, for the say you trade the next year's draft pick, you're going to have no incentive to tank because you're not going to have your pick. So you're going to try your best to win, and whether that results in wins or losses, that's neither here nor there. At least you won't be sitting out players and making them get surgeries and sitting out the entire season. Can't raise ticket prices if the team is losing. Now, this would have to come at some sort of, benchmark or set range of time to where the team can't be losing, because these owners aren't seeing any repercussions for tanking. They're not. Maybe some small fines here and there, but in terms of roster building or in terms of generating revenue for the franchise, they're not seeing any losses. How about we hurt their pockets a little bit? It will never get agreed upon, but these are some tanking solutions that I think could end up working. At the end of the day, guys, though, it's all a waste of breath. I don't think you can stop tanking. I just listed you guys loopholes for every single idea that they have, and I'm not even Harvard educated. Like, anybody can come up with a loophole for some of these things. I think professional basketball executives would have a fun time trying to navigate the new ways to tank out there. Now, in terms of the Warriors, how it affects them, like, they are in the 15th draft slot as it currently stands, and if they were to flatten the lottery odds or include all the play-in teams, well, Golden State would be a part of that group. So who could they end up drafting when it's all said and done in June? A couple of targets if they stay at 15. Braylon Mullins, sharpshooter over at UConn. Cameron Carr, athletic wing over at Baylor. Bennett Sturts, sharpshooting ball handler over at Iowa. LeBaron Philon, I mean, he's really, really good. He could have came out in the draft in 2025 and still would have been picked in the first round. Just an electrifying guard there for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Braden Burry's just bucket getter over at Arizona, man. He's really, really fun to watch. You have Tunde Yesufu at Baylor as well. Athletic, just big wing. Thomas Hoff over at Florida, like, guy who just makes a bunch of right decisions. I could see the Warriors potentially having some interest in him, given that they drafted Will Richard, very pro-ready player. Koa Pete, talk about a freshman who's kind of falling down draft boards a little bit, but very physical. Needs to get better with his perimeter game, but I'm curious about Koa Pete for sure. He's a tweener big, like 6'8", like 4'5" guy, which the Warriors would be all over. He'd be the next Draymond. Hans Steinbeck, he's a stretch big from Washington. Hasn't really been the best this season. I thought he could have actually moved up further into like the top 10 in the NBA draft, but he's been falling down boards. I think the Warriors would like to have a player like him in the building. Yaxel Lendeberg, I mean, just want to talk about do-it-all player. That's what Lendeberg is, and he's the best defender at the college level as it currently stands. So I wouldn't mind bringing him along whatsoever. At the end of the day, I will also say, though, I can't say I trust Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy to make the right decisions and navigate this, whether the tanking rules get changed or not. Like, what has given you confidence in this front office? And I also want to preface before or let you guys know before we wrap up today, Mike Dunleavy had nothing to do with the Kristaps Porzingis Jonathan Kuminga trade. I want everybody to know that. That was Joe Lacob. Every decision roster-wise over the last 5 years has been Joe Lacob. So for anybody blaming Mike Dunleavy, he's just a puppet. He's just a yes man. He's going to do whatever Joe Lacob says at the end of the day because Joe Lacob has more power than Mike Dunleavy at the end of the day. That will do it for today's show. Make sure you go to subscribe over at youtube.com/WarriorsTV for the latest and greatest on your Dubs all season long. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, let's go Dubs.